How is the AHEW universe doing? I'm Dog, and welcome back to the reaction video. And today we're reacting to 3 scary true mansion horror stories with Patrick.
Yeah.
We gotta record this. This is gonna be part of the vlog.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Show me one of the wrestlers.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Jericho.
Yeah. Oh, wait. See my hair? See my forehead?
Damn, you look like Hayden.
Sexy hair.
But anyway, before this video begins, if you haven't already, please subscribe because you're on the road to 22,000 subscribers. Also, if you have any reaction requests to give to me, put it down in the comments, and I'll put it in the reaction to do playlist within the description. Also, if you wanted to subscribe to Bulldog, top link in the description. But anyway, you were here for the reaction, so let's get right into the action. I don't want to hear you chewing the whole video.
There's this abandoned mansion in Toronto that came up in a group chat among my friends. We saw pictures of it through a mutual friend who had recently gone to explore there. It looked immaculate based on the pictures, and we were intrigued to go check it out. It was 10 miles north from us, so the drive wasn't bad. The mansion sat on a big open grass plain, with pine trees and other foliage surrounding the perimeter of the property, acting as a natural fence or just a wall of privacy from the outside. My friends, who I'll call Chad and Brad for this story, followed close behind me as I led the way up the large gravel driveway towards the front of the unfinished house.
You were?
By the looks of it, construction on the structure had been abandoned when it was near completion, as the outside foundation seemed to be finished. Our mutual friend who found out about the place had told us that he hopped through a back window that was left unlocked, so that's what we looked for. The unlocked window turned out to be in the kitchen, right over the counter, so one at a time we squeezed through the window, crawling onto the counter and then down to the ground. First impressions in the kitchen, almost immaculate, minus a few of the cabinet doors sprawled out on the floor as if they had yet to be installed, and just things like sheetrock boards laying around. But everything seemed new, and it was a shame the construction was abandoned. The three of us kind of went our own directions in the house. I went towards the living room.
Don't go alone.
What?
They
just
said they go with like 3 separate directions, and they're like, yeah.
That's like a horror movie.
That is just going perfect for a horror movie. It's everything in the
We're
minute.
just gonna die.
Which again was almost pristine. It was a huge room that transitioned into the dining room, and then from there a wide hallway with at least 10 different doors. My friends were already checking out some of the rooms in this hallway. I peeped into each room and realized most of them were bedrooms. At the end of the hall was a 3-door garage. The last door in the hall before the garage was the basement. I called to Brad and Chad that I was checking out the basement.
Well, why would you go in there alone, man? Come on. I would never even go in there with people.
Why the basement? Why the basement?
Oh yeah, let's go to the basement alone. Dude.
One of them. The basement had this bizarre spiral staircase, so when I got to the bottom, I couldn't even see the door at the top. There were no windows down there, so besides my flashlight, it was pitch black. It was a completely unfinished basement. Pieces of drywall everywhere, unfinished wood foundation where walls should be, but the basement was huge. Like there were multiple sections down there. It was big enough to fit a basketball court and more. Then I came across this back room with a few storage containers. I was here to explore after all, so I curiously started lifting the lids off the containers.
Wait, so it seems like this is stuff that happened to him and friends.
No, he's doing it in the POV form.
Oh!
It's like as if he's like it's just POV.
Okay, I get it.
The first 2 seemed to contain building tools and supplies like wood planks. But then I heard something from one of the other containers.
Yeah, dude, open it.
It was like something caused the container to make a bump sound.
Ooh.
Could it be an animal? Or was I just hearing things?
Meow.
I went to the container and noticed the lid was not sealed on this one, as it wasn't sitting perfectly snug on the top.
You should totally open it.
As I bent over to try and lift the lid, it lifted without me touching it, and I heard a whispering noise. I fell backwards on my hands as this happened, and while I was on the ground, I saw a smiling woman looking at me. The only thing lifting the container up was her head.
Nice.
She looked at me, laughed, and said peekaboo, and she laughed some more. I ran to the top of the stairs, but the basement door was now locked. I banged on it for my friends to open it up, but they were apparently messing with me. I heard creaks on the spiral staircase below me. I couldn't see her yet, but I could hear her laughing getting closer, and she was mumbling incomprehensible things. I screamed at the top of my lungs to please help me, and Chad finally opened the door. I I ran out and looked back for half a second, greeted by this ghostly, skinny figure of this pale woman looking up at me,
Seems fine.
almost at the top step. I slammed the door shut and locked it. Chad saw the woman too, and we bolted for the front door. We didn't care about leaving it open. The three of us got to the edge of the property to talk. After an hour of just sitting in my car thinking and talking, I agreed to go back inside and unlock the basement door.
Dude, he just says, I agree to go back
Maybe
inside.
you should just call the
Listen,
cops.
listen. He said, I agree to go back
The
inside.
three of us got to the edge of the property to talk. After an hour of just sitting in my car thinking and talking, I agreed to go back inside and unlock the basement door.
Why?
As scary as what I witnessed was, I didn't want to be responsible for someone dying down there. But when we got back inside, the basement door was wide open. I promise you, we locked that door, so it made no sense. We once again bolted back outside towards the car and drove home
So
to
call
never
the
return
cops.
to that mansion again.
That's fucking great.
It's free. Again.
Story 3.
Sorry, 4.
When I was a very young kid, we lived in an upper middle class neighborhood. Lots of space between each house. All the houses
This
on our
place looks like as if Hickory, the street that we live up by, it looks like if that place had a lot of flowers, pretty much. Like that, how that looks.
Hell yeah.
street were very nice, but there was one abnormally large house. It was closer to a mansion. It sat right across the street from us. My bedroom window could look across to the windows of the mansion. Since our street was incredibly low traffic, our parents let us play soccer in the street. So my two friends, Brian and Zeke, were playing soccer one sunny day. It was usually just the three of us, so we had this kind of free-for-all version of soccer that we made up. Eventually the ball was kicked onto the property of the mansion, so I ran over to get it. When I picked up the ball, I looked at all the windows to see if the house owner was possibly witnessing me on his property. But at one of the top windows was a young boy who looked to be about our age. I hurried off the property and back to my friends. I asked them if they had ever seen the kid who lives in that mansion. They hadn't. The second time I looked back at the window, the boy was no longer there.
Of course.
It wasn't for a while after that, probably a month, that I was in my room playing Nintendo. And for whatever reason, I got up to get something.
Doesn't even say what game I was
Yeah.
playing Nintendo.
Hell yeah. But my favorite game, Nintendo.
And I looked out my window across to the mansion, and I saw that boy at the window again. He was surely looking at me,
What if he's rich?
all the way from across the street. It kind of creeped me out. I walked away from the window to ignore it. Why hadn't I ever seen that kid outside before? Come to think of it, why hadn't I ever really seen the owners of that house? I asked my parents about the boy across the street. They said they were pretty sure there was no boy in that house.
Whoa.
So the next time Brian, Zeke, and I were playing in the street, we were thinking of potential fourth players to have a real game. I had an idea.
Go knock on
Think
the
of
door.
a potential fourth person. Yeah, let's go find the kid that lives
Hey,
there.
let's go in there, man.
I ran to the front door of that mansion and rang the bell.
And you
A
ran.
50-something-year-old woman answered. I asked if her son wanted to play soccer with us. She looked at me puzzled and said, "What son?" I replied, "The boy who was always at the upstairs window." I can't describe the look on her face besides shock and fear. She asked me what the boy looked like, and after my best description, a tear rolled down her cheek. She put her hands over her mouth.
Oh, it might have been like the ghost of her son or something.
Maybe.
She brought me upstairs to the room where I kept seeing the boy. It was a boy's bedroom. She showed me a picture of a kid and asked me if this was the boy I was seeing, and I said yes. She told me that was her 8-year-old son, Charlie, who died 10 years ago. That woman living there had been alone ever since she lost her son and husband. She believed what I said because I nor my parents would have ever had any way of knowing about her son. She didn't tell me or my parents what happened to her husband or son. As sad as this all was, it was still horrifying. There was
thought he was
one
gonna
other
say
time I saw the boy.
Horny.
I was in my room, months later, and I looked out my window to the woman's mansion across the street. There he was again, at the upstairs window. I could tell he was looking at me. I shut my blind with force and tried to forget about it. It still sends shivers up my spine when I think back on it.
But I feel like would have been a scary thing, but he should have done would have been like to have a phone, and whenever he saw it,
a
to
picture.
text the lady to say, hey, go up there.
Or take a picture.
I don't think ghosts show up on pictures.
That's a good reason to do that. That's alright. Paranormal stuff.
I was once hired to house sit for a friend of a family friend who was going away for a week. In this case, I should call it mansion sit because the family was absolutely loaded, and the mansion sat on the rich side of town in front of a huge lake.
Nah, the mansion was in the hood.
Yeah, it was in the worst area.
I was 21, and it just seemed like a cool job to have for a week. The family's one rule was to throw no parties and no more than 2 guests at any time, which even that I thought was generous of them.
I'll be there alone.
The father's name was
Wait, he was there
Benjamin,
alone?
and that's the only name you'll need to know. Ben left me a list of things to keep track of every night.
Oh yeah,
Which
he was
included
mansion
feeding the 2 cats and 2 parrots, watering the plants, among other things that really won't contribute to the story.
Last thing I want to do. Oh,
The house was a half hour from home, so instead of just driving there and back every day, I opted to just sleep in one of the guest bedrooms,
No.
which they offered to me after all.
Hell no.
The first day there, I got there very late, so it was a short one that got me kind of warmed up for what to expect the week ahead of me. After doing the insignificant amount of morning chores, I hopped in the pool they had in the backyard. The pool literally overlooked a gorgeous, tranquil lake, and even with the thought of getting to enjoy this unbelievable house for a week, I was still incredibly jealous. As I was in the pool, I noticed through the giant floor-to-ceiling windows to the living room, somebody walking inside. I jumped out from the pool, freaking out. I ran to grab the towel and dry myself for a second before storming inside, yelling, "Excuse me."
Nope. Nope.
I didn't see anyone in the living room, so I entered the kitchen, and there was a fairly large Hispanic woman who looked to be about 35 to 40. She was just standing there as if waiting for me. I asked her who she was and why she was here while trying to keep myself composed and confident.
Yeah, it's like he goes in. Why are you here?
Want a
What are you
hug?
doing?
Want to
Wanna
hug?
hug? Wanna hook up, honey?
A little sad.
In a thick accent that she was the maid who came every day to clean the floors and stuff.
I feel like I doubt that.
She introduced herself as Eliza. I instantly felt a sense of relief and introduced myself as Mike, the
I
guy
knew
who was
he-
house sitting for the week. She spoke in as little words as possible. I don't think her English was too good, but she basically said she was going to clean the floors in the kitchen and living room now. I said that was completely fine and let her do her thing.
I feel like
asked her-
one thing we're missing is how did she enter the house? Like
Well, they're gonna come back
frantic,
and say they never had a maid. I'm calling
like
it.
frantically, or just ran in.
I'm
Oh
calling
yeah,
it.
that's
I'm
probably
calling
that's
it.
probably right.
They're gonna say they never had a maid. I'm calling it.
That's probably right.
How she got in the house, and she said she had her own copy of the key. So that was that. I went back out to the pool
Wait,
for a little
did she
longer.
say she
let
had
her
it, or
do
did
her
she
thing.
just show?
She said,
I asked her how she got in the house, and she said she had her own copy of the key. So that was that. I went back out to the pool for a little longer to let her do her thing. When I got out from the pool, I dried up and took a shower. After my shower, I fed the animals again. The parrots were easier than the cats, surprisingly. I didn't see the maid again, but I didn't really want to get in her way and have awkward small talk with someone who could barely speak English anyway. I had a couple friends over that night because everyone was eager to see the place, but I respected their rules of only 2 guests at a time. I gave them the best tour I could. Then we kind of just chilled in the game room they had, played some air hockey and pool table, and drank a little bit. When I told my friends about the cleaning lady scaring the hell out of me, they both found it insanely suspicious. Like, why wouldn't Ben have told me about the cleaning lady? They brought up a good point, so I shot Ben a text, asking about the cleaning lady. He didn't answer right away, and I didn't want to call. My friends wanted to sleep over, but I didn't want to push it. I had no idea if they had cameras in the house or not. So they left, and quickly after I started getting myself ready to lay down in bed. At some point I got a text back from Ben, apologizing for taking so long, and then asking what cleaning lady, with 2 question marks and an exclamation point. I typed back, Eliza, the Hispanic woman who came by and claimed she was the cleaning lady. That's when Ben called me with a concerned voice. He got more details from me after telling me there was no cleaning lady.
Knew it.
That was the whole reason they hired me. I felt like I had been taken for a fool. And more importantly, I was terrified that I may not have been in that house alone at that very moment. Ben told me to just hide in a bedroom and that he'd call the police for me. So we hung up, and I waited in the room for the police to arrive. I had Ben on FaceTime when the police arrived, so he could also talk to them.
What I was scared about was, like, what if she, like, came in the room while he was...
Or tried to.
Yeah.
Through the house together, from top to bottom, and we didn't see anyone. I told Ben the lady said she had a spare key, but he said he was confident that that was a lie, because they never made any spare keys. He was confident she simply snuck in when I was in the pool or outside in general. After we were sure there was no one in the house, the police left, but they made sure I locked all the doors and windows before they did so. I spoke with Ben a little longer, who was very comforting, and asked I just hold down the fort and call the police if anything else should happen.
He stayed there?
I'm going
went to
home,
bed.
dude.
I locked the door, of course. I left the air conditioner off so I could hear any potential noises from outside of the room. As I lay awake, subconsciously waiting for a noise, I heard one from under the bed.
Bro.
It sounded like a squeak on the wood floor.
Bro.
I hopped out of the bed and looked under it. There were two people hiding underneath.
Oh.
One was the lady from earlier, Eliza. The other was some man probably 10 years older than her, with his hand over her mouth. They both locked eyes with me. I screamed and I ran for the door. The moment that it took me to unlock the door and then open and shut it was more than I was comfortable over her mouth. They both locked eyes with me. I screamed and I ran for the door. The moment that it took me to unlock the door and then open and shut it was more than I was comfortable with. As I did, I heard them crawling out from the bed. I ran outside to my car without my shoes and drove down the street, where I called the police, and then I called Ben again. I waited for police cars to pass, and then I followed them. We once again searched the whole house and found no one. This time I didn't stick around for the night. Ben told me to go home and
Thank
stay
God.
safe.
I'm never gonna live in
The
a
family booked a flight back home the next day, cutting their vacation short. The intruders were never identified. All that can be speculated is they walked in through the front door while I was in the pool because I didn't lock the door, and that they somehow knew the family would be gone. No further info is known.
That's fucking creepy. I think that one's definitely the better one.
Yeah, hell is fucking creepy.
Imagine that, like, you hear a squeak under your bed. That's one reason why I'm never gonna get a bed for him.
I don't want a house big ever. And I don't ever want to live in a big house.
Do you think any freaking monsters are gonna be under that bed?
Baby.
Alright, well, anyway, that was our reaction to 3 true scary horror stories. There was no laughter because it's kind of a serious subject. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, hit the like button. Wait for the show, then for the 1, 2, 3 count. But if you guys liked it, please tell me what I can do better the next video or in the future. And bang, boom, bye. And I'll see you in the next video. See ya.